insatiable appetite for real estate, the investors eager to latch themselves on to the next rocket ship. Neumann had become a millennial prophet for a new way of working and living, brushing back his flowing dark hair as he dispensed koans and made bombastic proclamations that somehow came true. WeWork's core business was simple. It leased space, cut it up, and rented out each slice with an upcharge for hip design, flexibility, and regular happy hours. Other companies had risen, and in many cases fallen, by offering more or less the same service, which amounted to a straightforward arbitrage. Lease long, rent short, and collect the margin. What separated Neumann's company was not only the impressive amount of physical space it occupied, with locations across 30 countries and counting, but also the grandeur of Neumann's vision for what the company would become. He had long resisted the obvious, that WeWork was a real estate leasing company, insisting that it was anything but. It was a tech startup, a social network, a community company, an organization bent on reshaping society. "We are here in order to change the world," Neumann once said. "Nothing less than that interests me." In the 9 years since WeWork's founding, practically every New York landlord, investor, and industry titan could tell a personal story about Neumann punctuating a business meeting with tequila shots. When we met, Neumann was wearing sneakers, black jeans, and a gray t-shirt, a study in nonchalance, and asked one of his assistants for hot water with lemon and ginger. He was still 5 months from the swift and sudden events that would find him walking the streets of New York barefoot, trying to maintain control of his company in the middle of the most humiliating attempt at a public offering in American business history, followed by his ouster with what appeared to be a billion-dollar exit package that fell apart once the world became a place where the last thing anyone wanted was high-density office space. If Neumann sensed that the seeds of his demise had already been planted and were beginning to sprout, he showed no fear. "Our trajectory looks like Amazon's," Neumann told me, with a magic 8-ball resting behind him on his desk. "Except our market is larger and our growth is faster." The boast was one Neumann had repeated many times, but he had a way of delivering canned lines with an enthusiasm that made each one feel handcrafted for its recipient. By 2019, every hyper-ambitious startup founder, was there now any other kind, presented his or her business as having the makings of a world-changing global behemoth. But it took a special kind of hubris to claim you would one day stare down Jeff Bezos in the rearview mirror. "Think of the stage that we're in as the books for Amazon," he said. "They used books to enter into the everything store. We used the work mission to enter into a larger category." What category was that? The larger category of life. WeWork had just announced a new location in Johannesburg, putting the company on its 6th continent. "We're not going to Africa because we think that's a huge growth opportunity," Neumann told me. He described the decision to open in South Africa as a duty, given what he says he knew about how we affect the GDP, how we affect employment. Claiming an ability to bend entire economies to his will was a bold declaration for an entrepreneur just shy of his 40th birthday. But Neumann had reason to feel confident. WeWork had become the largest office tenant in New York City, and second in London only to Her Majesty's government. The company had tapped into a desire, especially strong among young workers, for an in-office experience more fulfilling than the one their parents' cubicles offered. The company's revenue had more or less doubled every year for a decade, and Neumann had raised more than $11 billion of investment capital. The vast majority came from Masayoshi Son, the founder of SoftBank, a Japanese technology conglomerate, and one of the few executives in the world whose ambition exceeded Neumann's. Son had first invested in WeWork in 2017, partly through the Vision Fund, a $100 billion venture capital bazooka funded primarily by the Saudi Arabian government. He spent the final years of the 2010s investing previously unimaginable amounts of venture capital in an attempt to reshape a range of